Thursday night kicks off with the NFC East on the line. This very surprising Washington team taking on the surging Philadelphia Eagles. Which team will emerge with the edge for this division?
49ers and Seahawks. Who wants to win the NFC West?
Old rivals square off. We kind of didn't realize the Steelers would be here, but the Ravens, yeah. Question is, will Lamar Jackson remember that Derrick Henry's in the backfield against this steel curtain defense?
Next up for the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Will Superman Josh be the one who finally puts a loss in the column for the Kansas City Chiefs?
It's week 11. There's a lot on the line, divisions and playoff implications alike. Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee. Hopefully, we get some really good competition this week.
Thursday night, I can kind of get used to having some decent games on, Go ahead, Amazon. Go ahead, Amazon. I'm proud of you. After last year's fiasco, it's good to see some quality. Thursday night, man. What's up?
Second week in a row.
I know. I think I just jinxed it, so next week will just probably be horrible. But hey, It was a great run.
Well, to be fair, last week's Thursday night game was good for all the wrong reasons.
True, very true.
This one, at least, we're seeing some old school punch you in the teeth football.
It's a good old NFC East showdown. It's quality football.
So, speaking of that, this very much is some old school pigskin here. Low scoring, lots of defense. I guess we wouldn't even see a touchdown if Philadelphia had kind of gotten going a little bit, because Jaden Daniels hasn't been much of a factor other than that first drive or so.
It's been some ugly ball. It's good ball, but ugly ball. I don't know what's going on with the Eagles. I thought they'd be able to do a little more in the past game, but you got to give Washington credit. They've clamped down and they're making it really tough for this Eagles defense. Saquon really hasn't busted out. So it's going to be one of those things where a turnover is really going to make the difference in this game.
Yeah, we kind of figured that, Philadelphia's bread and butter this year has been their defense, more or less. And they put the statistics up before the game, and completely polar opposite from last year. Washington, their defense has been kind of the Achilles heel up until the last couple games. So kind of think like, okay, maybe Philadelphia is really going to get the wheels rolling, and hopefully, and maybe this game not as competitive. But sure enough, this is just real grinded out, and Philadelphia is the one that has yet to find pay dirt.
Yeah, you got to give Washington credit for the defense. Dan Quinn's really got these guys playing well. And like we said, we talked about it. We always thought Washington's defense was going to be the Achilles, but these last couple of weeks, this defense has stepped up. Now it's time for the offense to almost show up. It's kind of funny where, the first 9 weeks it's been the offense, but this defense, got to give them credit.
Dan Quinn's got them believing. You got to believe.
That's it, man. He brought that mantra from Dallas over here to Washington.
That's weird to think of Dallas and believing you can win.
Well, they had a defense once a time.
Well, yeah, once upon a time.
There you go.
What's kind of going wrong for Jaden Daniels? Is this just like a young quarterback seeing a really good defense that can't figure out where to put the ball, or are they really got him kind of pegged on this one?
I think it's a situation where Philly's defense is solid. It's a thing where I think they know what he wants to do, and they've basically said, okay, we're not going to let you run, so you're going to have to try to sit in the pocket and do something, and it's really not working out. Philly's corners are playing well, and it's just I guess at this point they're really going to have to try to get the run game going because the pass game is non-existent. And it looked like the first drive, the run game was decent, but that's what it's going to be. I think they're going to have to really try to hang their hat on the run a bit and just try to get some short gains, and hopefully these guys can bust something out.
Do you think that's on Jalen Hurts, or is it just a matter of Washington's defense playing well? Because there are a couple of plays where he's put the ball in a pretty decent place, but the defensive back was all over his receiver.
Nah, I don't think so because there also were a couple throws where, especially there was one to Brown, AJ Brown, to on the sidelines, and he just totally missed them by like 4 or 5 yards. So I don't know. I'm not. I don't think Jalen's just not there still. I don't know what it is. Those throws, I think a year or two ago, he's hitting no problem, but he's missed some decent throws. And Washington, got to give them credit. They've played well. So it's going to be, like I said, I think it's either going to be a turnover or it's just going to be a complete breakdown. And one of these teams are just going to be able to score. This is going to be a low scoring game.
This is actually, well, I guess not so surprising. The Eagles actually have 50 more yards in the first half, which seems weird because the Philly looks like they're struggling more, but at the same time, every time you look at, like, if you step away for a minute or you're kind of multitasking, you go back to the game, Philly's on offense. So Philly's really, despite how poor the offense looks, they're still kind of dominating time of possession a little bit.
Yeah. It's one of those things where Washington's almost like a bend but don't break. They're like, all right, you've got the ball. You see a couple plays where you think Philly might be able to break something out, but Washington clamps it down. It's just going to be whoever can sustain a
Is,
drive, and maybe get a lucky turnover.
is that a half decent strategy for this? Because how much confidence do you have that eventually Philly's going to break through? Is Washington kind of playing with fire if they're just resting on their laurels with a touchdown and hoping they can get a couple more field goals?
Well, here's the thing: Washington's got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. They've been able to hold Philly to this. I don't think they're scared. That's what's working. So unless Philly comes out in the second half and starts getting chunk plays, I think they're willing to live and die by this.
What do you need? What do you want to see happen for Barkley to get going in the second half? Because numbers wise, he's there, 56 yards. I mean, any running back will take that for one half of play. So what do you want to see in order for Barkley to really get going and find pay dirt and be a game breaker?
It's 56 yards, but it's been a hard 56 yards. Usually in most of the game, past games, he's pulled off 56 and a quarter. He's been, incredible. I think what he's going to need to do is probably get involved in the pass game. I know a lot of people, don't trust his hands, but I think maybe that's what you've got to do. You got to say, hey, man, we need you out there catching some balls, changing some things up that kind of stretches out this defense. And then, it gives Jalen a chance to throw downfield deep.
Hard fought yardage isn't always a good thing with a running back that's injury prone.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where if he catches a good pop, maybe a knee or something like that, then their season's done.
So there's another division kind of on the line this week as we move into Sunday. The Ravens. The Ravens, we can more or less say they expected to be here. The Steelers is a bit more of a surprise, but
Mm-hmm.
I almost kind of feel like, and I can't believe I'm uttering these words. I almost kind of feel like I trust the Steelers more in this situation.
I don't know. This is the game for the Steelers. This game truly tells if they're legit, if they're contenders, or if they're pretenders. I
Yes.
think because right now, if you look at the AFC as a whole, right now, I think most people would take Baltimore as the favorite to knock off Kansas City right now. So
Oh,
honestly, I think so. I don't, I think Buffalo's close, but I think right now Baltimore is a little more complete. So now you're going to find out where the Steelers where they stand. If they can knock off, Lamar and them, then it's a whole new conversation. So it's going to be interesting to see.
yeah. So thanks for hopping on Craft Brews Review. Um, So with this one, this is an interesting one. This is a very intriguing game. I hope I'm blessed to have it on the old television because um I Henry to me is so critical, and maybe this is why I trust the Steelers more right now because they haven't been leaning on Henry as much the last couple of weeks. And I think Henry is the key to this because of that defense controlling the clock against that very good Pittsburgh defense. I
Mhm.
think that if he can tire them out, then that's what's gonna make more pressure be on Rush's shoulders. He'll have to do two more, and Baltimore can force a mistake because I think their defense kind of needs turnovers to be effective. They're not effective straight up.
Oh no, definitely. Henry's the key to this, and we've talked about this. They don't use Henry right off the bat. There's some games for some reason where you don't see him, till literally the second or third quarter, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we forgot we had him. So it's going to be key. I think you start with him early, you let him do his thing, and go from there. Pittsburgh's defense is great, but I don't know if their offense is good enough to come from behind. I think Lamar and those guys have an explosive offense, and I think those guys can put points up. Now, it is Pittsburgh's defense. Those guys are great. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. If they're going to go slow, grind it out, then yeah, Derrick Henry's the key to it all. But if they try to go up and down the field, I don't know if Pittsburgh's defense is going to allow them to do that.
I think it should be noted that this could be a reality check for the Steelers. Here I am singing up the praises, but I think it could be a reality check for them because
Mm-hmm.
to me this is the first quality opponent they've played. I mean, granted, you had Washington. Washington's been very good, but they're still a developing team. This is probably the most veteran, most balanced team that Pittsburgh has played since they made the quarterback change. So there could be a reality check in store for us.
No, of course. This is what many people would say maybe the best team in the league, but we all know that Detroit. So you're talking this could be the second or third best team in the league. So they're facing an elite team. And Pittsburgh's kind of been a feel good story. Russ comes back and, they're on this little streak. This is it. These little, no look rainbows and, touchdowns and plays that have seemed to work for them I don't know, will work against Baltimore. Baltimore's defense does have some holes in it. So it's going to be a situation. Basically, it comes down to Baltimore's offense versus Pitt's defense. It's whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win the game.
On that note, what's more likely to give? Because you have the better quarterback against the better defense, and you have the lesser defense playing a quarterback who's a veteran. They've been around the block, but they're nowhere near their former selves. So like, which kind of has a better chance of breaking for the offense to have success?
I think you have to say Lamar in the Pitt defense. Like I said, Pittsburgh's offense is slowly starting to come around, but I don't know if it's there yet. Like they are playing a lesser defense, but I don't know if they're a quick score type of offense. If Baltimore's defense can slow them down, if it's got to be a methodical drive and they still score, I think that kind of works in, Baltimore's favor because I think they can score quicker.
So maybe we see some fool's gold as far as Baltimore's defense looking better than they really are.
Could very well be. I think you're gonna see, Lamar quick pass, kind of keep, Pitt's defense on their heels. Like you can't sit in the pocket. I don't think that's gonna work. So I think it's gonna be a heavy dose of Henry and quick passing, and you're gonna want your receivers, and maybe it's gonna be a lively show. You never know. He could stretch that field a bit.
At this point, I think we've got a better chance of seeing a solar eclipse.
It's true, but you never know. You never know. Put him out wide, force him. Stretch out that defense. He's quick enough. You never know.
I mean, he really does really have more of a wide receiver's body. So I mean, playing him at tight end is a little bit of a square peg in a round hole.
No, it is, but Baltimore's got speed on that offense, so that could be the key to it.
Yeah. So of course the game that everybody's gonna be talking about is the Chiefs and the Bills. Obviously, much to our chagrin on a week in and week out basis, the Chiefs stand here at 9-0. They've been barely getting out of these games. Buffalo has impressed us over the span of this season. We're certainly weren't expecting them to be 8-2. So this has got to be it, right?
It very well could be.
And for once, it's not an Arrowhead.
Right? Like, exactly. It seems like they play there every week. I'm like, gosh, here we go again. They're at Arrowhead. I got to watch Taylor Swift walk down to her seats. Like, I'm just thank God it's somewhere else this week. It very well could be. This could be the week. It's the Chiefs have escaped, by the skin of their teeth. Literally, it seems like every week. This very well could be the game where, something happens and Josh puts on the cape and pulls it out. So it's going to be interesting to see. Some people have picked this game to be the game where, there's finally a loss for the Chiefs. We'll find out. It's going to be interesting.
Like we're gonna wait for Josh Allen to have his Jordan versus the Pistons moment, but we've been waiting on it for a few years now.
We have, and if this is the year, then this is probably the game. This is a defining game in Buffalo season for sure, because you're going to really see where you stack up. You're playing at home, everything is in your favor. So it's either you pull this out. If you for some reason just fall on your face and allow them to score over 25 points a game, all we're going to hear is, "Oh, the Chiefs offense is back. Here we go, yada yada." It's Buffalo's game to lose. I really think so.
Take a what have you done for me lately approach to this. Based off of last week. That was obviously that's our most recent example of how well or poorly teams are playing. Um, do you see what's your kind of forecast for how this game's going to go based off Kansas City barely surviving the Broncos and Buffalo struggling a little bit with my Colts, but ultimately came out and poured it on against us.
What this game is going to come down to is it's that Chiefs defense. What is Buffalo's game plan? Are they going to try to run it? Are they going to try to pass? Now, the Chiefs' pass defense has looked a little shaky over the last week or two. So I don't think Josh is going to sit there and try to gun it, 35, 40 times. I think you're going to see, a lot of, I don't think tricks or anything like that. I think you're going to see probably a lot of passes to Cook, and they're just going to try to mix things up a bit. What it comes down to is, will Buffalo's defense be able to just withstand the usual Chiefs, all right, there's the throw to Kelsey, or, you get, the scramble for first down by Patrick, all those things we're used to seeing every week.
Do you expect this to be low scoring because they both have very good defenses?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a 38-35 game. Definitely. If the Chiefs were to put up 28 points, I'd be impressed. They're not putting up points, so I think it's going to be a low scoring. Whoever makes a mistake at the end is going to lose the game. I could see it going to overtime now, but also, the Chiefs have taken a kind of a hit. Harrison Buckner's out; he's on IR. So their kick game is going to be, down a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
He's one of the best kickers in the league. So that's significant.
Yeah.
Uh, it's funny you said the 28 points. The way this season's going for the Chiefs offense, if they put up 28 points against the Panthers, I'd be impressed.
Yeah, you're sitting. If you see 28 points for them, everyone's like, "Oh, they're back. That offense is incredible." That's what you'll hear. They'll be like, "Oh, it's incredible, 28 points." It's like, come on now. A year ago, when if they were putting up 28 points, people were saying what was wrong with the offense. So it just comes down to whoever is probably going to make a late mistake that's going to turn the tide in this game. If it comes down to kicking, Chiefs could be in trouble.
Well, as far as what as far as what things that it could come down to if everything is otherwise even. I mean, Josh is going against the Chiefs defense that's carried Kansas City this season, and Patrick not being his usual Patrick going against the Bills defense that's been surprisingly very good. So, do you see James Cook as a possible difference maker as far as deciding the outcome and the victor?
Oh, he very well could be. It just depends on what Buffalo does offensively. If they're going to use him more in the pass game, or if they're going to say, okay, let's try, let's focus on the run. I think for them, you use them a lot in the pass game and see what happens.
So okay. So then James Cook, for him to be an impact, you don't have much faith in him as a runner. Then for him to be in and have an impact, you think he's got to be dual threat.
I think he has to be a dual threat. I think he has to be a dual threat. That middle of the Chiefs defense is good. Let's be honest. Chris Jones and those guys, that's solid. Like, I don't think he's going to run up the middle and bust out 7-8 yard gains. He's not that kind of back. He's an elusive kind of guy. I think he's going to be better out of the pass game, and that's going to work for them. They've got to keep that defense off on its heels. They have to keep them on their heels, not knowing what's going on. If you sit there and say, okay, James, run up the middle, 3 times, it's not going to work.
I will say before we move on, I'm surprised you're in game day mode right now on the Bucks bye week with the jersey. Huh?
Always got to be. Always got to be. It's football Thursday, beginning of the week. You always got to be. This is a victory week, man. Bye week is victory. I don't care what anybody says. Your bye week is a victory. It's automatic.
Well, and I can also speak from my own team's perspective. 4-6 on a bye. 4-6 does feel like a win.
We're starting the easy part of the schedule now. We went 4-6. All right, now we're ready to turn it up.
Yeah, and also Mike Evans. I guess you're probably trying to channel some good health for him to return next week as Mike Evans normal.
Well, Mike's supposed to be coming back in a week or two. Wirfs is going to be out a few weeks. You get one back, you lose one, but that's all right because the constant Baker Mayfield.
Well, Mike Constant. I guess we're going back to Mike Constant with AR, and I just hope he's learned a lesson.
Hopefully so, man. This is it. If he can't turn this around, then I think maybe you guys a la tank the season and look for that number 1 pick.
Yeah, especially against the Jets. It's not like they're
Shedeur Sanders. Get him. Oh, if you guys lose to the Jets, oh man, don't even.
I'm done. I'm gonna wear a paper bag on my head for the show for the remainder of the season.
All the Saints. There you go. There you go. Get yourself a nice one.
The Aints. We'll call us the Olts.
The Olts.
This one, not so much the effect on the division that we thought it probably could have been a couple weeks ago because the Bears have kind of gone into a bit of a nosedive lately. But they're still at home, and this, I guess, is a good chance for them to get back in it because the Packers haven't exactly been lighting it up of late either. So if they can kind of steal one right here, hosting the Packers, and obviously Packers fans love to run their mouth again about the Bears and who Chicago's daddy is.
Yeah, well, that was years ago when the one known as Aaron Rodgers actually had a quality career. He's nobody's daddy, and nobody wants him. Honestly, yeah, it's the Chicago offense, and I don't think it's going to get any better. They fired the OC this week, so now it's okay. What's this offense going to be? Caleb's kind of gone into a tailspin, kind of tried to, kind of play the way he did, USC, which doesn't work in the NFL because everybody's just as fast and everyone can do what you do. So it's going to be tough. That offense, I don't all of a sudden see them waking up on Sunday morning and saying, okay, we're ready to go and popping off 35 points. You've got issues. You can't get the ball to the wide receivers. You got quality wide receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. These guys have been non-existent, and that's because Caleb can't get the ball. It's basically been DeAndre Swift and just everybody else. Once in a while, you'll see a Cole Kmet signing. The offense is tough. It's in a tough space right now. So I don't know if the Chicago defense can really hang. They're a decent defense. They're a good defense. But if they're on the field the majority of the game, the Packers have got this.
You can throw Cole Kmet in the bucket with Sam Laporta and Isaiah Likely as tight ends who have woefully underperformed this year.
I'd still take Sam Laporta. At least least his name gets called every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, believe me, I would too. Which is even more of a head scratcher why he's played so poorly considering Goff's been almost perfect other than whatever that Houston debacle was.
He just waits for, David Montgomery to throw him touchdowns. That's just the play of the games now.
That's right. Trick plays. So you don't think that, normally when teams fire a coach, fire a coordinator, there's a boost because it's just like a fresh face. You don't see any chance of that with Chicago with a new play caller?
No, because I think Chicago's coaching staff's a hot mess. I don't think there's anybody in there that's going to juice it up. Like who's going to juice it up? Tell me.
Well, in the coaching
it's
staff,
not. It's not like anyone from the Sean McVay tree or anything like that's walking through the door. They're not going to all of a sudden, have all these fancy great plays and you're going to see greatness. You're not. It's going to be okay. So what is this team? You're probably going to see a lot of Swift getting the ball and they're going to limit what Caleb does. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, and they sent off Herbert too, so it's really just left.
It's gonna. I don't know what it's gonna be. I think it's if for some reason they go off and they're able to put up close to 30 points, I'd be shocked. I just think that I think it's lost. I really do. I don't think they're going to be able to turn it around. I think they need a fresh voice, not only in the head coach but the OC. And until that happens, you're gonna just see them muddle offensively and get points via the defense.
Do you put the offensive struggles on Caleb as far as growing pains are concerned, or is it just the fact that the offensive line is horrendous and nobody can produce behind something like that?
No, yeah, the offensive line is in a tough spot for sure. But Caleb's got to take some responsibility because sometimes even when that offensive line holds up, he's running around trying to do stuff that he shouldn't do. You got to know to throw the ball away if you don't have anything, and he doesn't do that. Like you don't sit there. You can't do what you did in college. It doesn't work. It's not. Yes, that's what got you to be the number one pick, but that doesn't work in the league. You got to know to throw it away and live for another down. And he doesn't do that. So they're, 3rd and 20, 2 and 18. You're not going to do anything like that. You're not going to survive. So it's a little bit of everything. Caleb is a rookie, so he does get a bit of a pass, but not a total pass.
So despite your token shot at the alleged great one, it doesn't sound like you're very high on Chicago. So that means the streak continues for the Packers. Jordan Love's going to be okay.
Yeah, I honestly think the Pack wins this game. I think the Bears are solid defensively, but I don't think that they'll be able to withstand the Pack. I think the Pack after a while will wear them down. They're going to get their shots. They're going to score, and the Bears are going to muddle through this offensively again. They might put up 15, 17 points.
Yeah, I think was this the week 1 matchup for these two teams? It was a little close one. And so what's kind of wrong with Jordan Love? He's not he got the big contract and the team's 6-3, but at the same time it's not a very convincing 6-3.
Well, he's been hurt. Don't forget, dude. He's it's not like it's been a clean season for him. He's been hurt. He tried to come back with the groin injury. It wasn't the smart move, a few weeks ago. So he's been nicked up. I've been impressed. I think it's a solid 6-3. I really do for what they've had to deal with. And Malik Willis has played well a couple games. I think they've played solid. if it's a healthy Jordan Love, they're probably sitting at 7-2. 6-3. Yeah, it doesn't sound great, but if you really think about it, they're a game or two away from literally being like probably close to. I don't know if they'd be winning the division, but they'd be a lot closer. So I think once he's 100% healthy, I think they're going to be solid.
They may be they may be not necessarily looking up at Minnesota. They'll probably still be looking up at Detroit, but they probably may not be looking up at Minnesota. They'd probably be worrying about the Lions instead of worrying about the Vikings.
I think they just concentrate. Play smart. Once Love's 100% and really healthy, then this team is going to be solid.
And I will correct myself because, of course, the Love injury happened in the Brazil game against the Eagles. So I must have been thinking about last year, the heroics against the Bears.
Dang, Brazil game. Dang it.
Yeah. Oh, we keep flying everybody overseas though every year, more international games.
That's it, man, because you don't want to play them here. That's what happens.
All right, interesting one here. I don't think we thought that Seattle and San Francisco would be in a must-win situation to keep pace with the Arizona Cardinals.
There's always that story during the season. There's always that one team you're like, what? How? What? And this is it. Arizona got to give them credit. Don't ask me how they kind of fell into this, but hey, you're a division leader. Go ahead. But yeah, now you've got the Niners and the Hawks, fighting for their lives.
There may be a little fortune to Arizona's first place standing because these two teams here have dealt with nothing but injuries this season. Seattle's their defense was beat up for a good 3-4 week chunk in the early part of the season. Metcalf's been banged up of late. Kenny Walker missed a couple games early on, so they've dealt with it. And then of course the Niners. That just leaves nothing more to be said. CMC only just came back, and Devo was out for a little bit. Ayuk out for the season. So this is almost like the ultimate infirmary bowl.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're both fully healthy for this one, or at least darn close to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think the Niners might be the healthier of the two. They've CMC back. That's key. But we know how these games go between these two teams. The first half will be 7-3 or like 10-7, and the next thing you know, the points come flying fast and furiously. So it's just going to be if Seattle can withstand the defense and put points up.
And here, the interesting thing here is the Niners have not played well against their division this year. They had the comeback. The Rams came back against them and won at the end. The Cardinals wiped the floor with them early on. So what's kind of been wrong with the Niners as far as playing their divisional opponents, and will we see that continue against the Seahawks?
Let's be honest. Purdy hasn't had his pieces. I think you kind of know what Purdy is. When Purdy has all of his pieces, he's a great quarterback. When he doesn't have the pieces, he's average. Let's be honest. You don't have CMC. You lose, Debo for a bit. You lose Ayuk and stuff when you don't have your full complement. And that's what this offense is, a system based. And everyone's like, I hate the term system quarterback. Purdy's good, but has he really proven that he can, win with nothing? I don't think so. So that's what this comes down to. He's got enough pieces now where on paper they have enough to beat the Seahawks. They do. But for some reason it's a, divisional game, and they, never, I don't say they don't play well, but it takes a while to get it going. So that's what this is. It's going to come down to, okay, you've got pretty much all your pieces really except for one. Can you do it? Can you get it done? You should be able to.
Yeah, that's the next step is, CMC is now back with a game under his belt. Debo's been okay been more healthy than not the last few weeks. So and Kittle's been practically all pro level this year. So with all that being said, now is now's got to be the time to start seeing the Niners we're used to, right? No more excuses.
Well, you hope so. You hope so. If they lose this game, then it's a situation of what's going on, and I think at some point then he's not on the hot seat, but you got to start wondering is the voice of Kyle Shanahan falling stale
Yeah.
because their window's closing. Like they're like this is it. Like this is it. If they can't turn this around and get to the Super Bowl this year, I think it's a wrap. At this point, I think you see the ascension of Detroit, and you're going to see other teams in the NFC, and the Niners just become that contending team. They're not the team like they've been the last 3-4 years.
Are you a fan of dismissing coaches of good teams, but they just can't get over the hump?
I don't think it's dismissing them, but it's not like I'm sitting there, saying that.
Well, dismissing like firing them at the end of the season.
No, but if you've done what the Niners have done and you can't get over the hump, like at some point you've got to pull out. You've got to win a Super Bowl. Like you had the chance last year, you didn't do it. You've had opportunities. If you can't get it done, there's a point where you got to say what is wrong. Like what is wrong? If it's not your players because they've gotten you there, then is it the voice? Is it the coach? Do they need something that's going to take them over the top? Does he have it?
Yeah, it's almost like it almost could be a situation like Tony Dungy going to John Gruden with the Bucks, where you have a complete team and you just need something different.
Yeah, he leaves, Gruden walks in, and voila, there's your Super Bowl. Sometimes you just need that because you have somebody who either can see something different. Because if you got the same guy there year after year and you just keep hitting that wall, and nothing's happening, someone new comes in and says, "Wait a minute, all you've got to do is go this way." Oh, look, the wall comes down. It's the truth.
Could be an awkward Thanksgiving supper at the Shanahan household. Maybe not this year, but next year if there's still no Super Bowl on Kyle's hand.
Dad's gonna look at him and be like, "Shoulda, coulda, woulda."
So, being that we are in a unique opportunity where your team just played the Niners last week, what, based on what you saw from the Niners defense, what should Seattle's game plan be to take advantage of the defense, as tall a task as it may be?
Well, you got to keep an eye on CMC, of course, but you got to watch that middle. You got to cut down that. Juwan Jennings is the key to this offense now. I really think so. Juwan Jennings was unbelievable on third downs last week. He's the guy. No one talks about him enough. Everyone talks about Kittle, Debo, CMC, but Juwan Jennings has been the guy, the constant on this team. And like I said, last week on third downs, he was the guy. You got to limit their third downs and you got to score. Like when Seattle has the opportunity, can't be threes. It's got to be sevens.
So that's Gina. What's kind of, is there any hole that Gino can take advantage of on the Niners defense? Is that over the middle as well, or is it something different? Is it run game? Is it deep threats? Where's kind of the quote unquote weak spot on the Niners defense?
I don't know if there's a weak spot. You just gotta make plays. You gotta make plays. You got to be able to run the ball. I think Seattle's livelihood is running the ball. They got to run the ball. I don't think DK's playing this week. So there goes your real big play threat. So they have to be able to run the ball, and they've got to convert on third downs. They can't, go 3 and out. They can't have 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. They've got a manageable third downs, and they've got to take the opportunities. They're really going to rely on their defense to put them in great positions.
Yeah, they could be bailing out the Niners if they could just double JSN and not worry about Gino, and kind of not necessarily not worry about Gino so much because he just doesn't have the weapons otherwise to go to.
Yeah, unless they say, "All right, you know what, Gino, you beat us with your arm." And the way he's played this year, I don't know if he can do that.
Oh, slinging Sam! Like probably too late to change quarterbacks now, but at one point I thought it might happen.
Just You go with what you got and see what happens.
So the Sunday nighter this week is an interesting one because we've seen some interesting things from the Bengals of late, uh, and now they go up against a Chargers team that I was kind of waiting for the Chargers to hit reality, and it hasn't happened yet. They're still in it. I think they'd be a lot more of a paid attention to story had the Chiefs not started 9-0. Um, so is this the nail in the coffin for Cincinnati, or do they have one last shot to get their season back on track?
Cincinnati's got to play perfect the rest of the year. Like, let's be honest. If they lose one more game, it's a wrap. Like, I don't think they can bounce back. Unfortunately, their defense is horrible. Their defense is a sieve. So they'll put up 35, but give up 38. Like, let's be honest here. Their defense is not good. So now the Chargers aren't exactly, lighting up scoreboards. They win games, but it's not like they're putting up 35 points either. So it's going to be a situation of, if Cincy can start out quick, and if they can, then I think they've got a shot. They got a shot to win for sure. But if it ends up being slow and just for some reason neither team can really get their footing, I think that plays into the Chargers' hands, and they can run the ball. They'll play
Yeah.
ugly. They'll play ugly slow ball, and they'll play Michigan style ball. That's what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, you brought that up. I don't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, but you brought up how they have the identity of Harbaugh's old squad. Um, and a fast start by Cincinnati might tank the Chargers' opportunities in this because they don't let Herbert open his arm up and sling it around. So I don't necessarily see them as a team that this year that can go tit for tat with a high powered offense.
Yeah, this isn't the Chargers of a couple of years ago where they were putting they put up 35 points in a blink of an eye. Where they were throwing the ball all over the place. They
And gave up
control.
40.
Yeah, exactly. They control Herbert. They're like, all right, you might throw 23, 24 times, but we're going to run the ball. We're going to control things. This is what this team is. So if Cincy can get onto a fast start, they could blow them out. But for some reason, if Cincy starts out slow and just can't get it together, the Chargers are going to eat that clock, and before you know it, it's going to be a 23-17 Chargers win.
Being that their best chance at 7-3 is to play ugly, play a good defensive game, and shut down Joe Burrow. What's the best strategy to shut down Joe Burrow?
Well, it's like any quarterback, you get a rush on him. But I think at this point, you shut down Chase and you force him to throw to everybody else. You force Mike Gesicki to be the guy. You force everybody else.
I don't think anyone shut down Chase this year except, oddly enough, the Giants.
Yeah. But if you can at least slow him down, then that gives you a shot. Because let's be honest, the run game is adequate. Brown is good, but I don't know. I don't, I think at the end of the day, since he would love to be the team who throws it all over the yard and, puts up points aplenty, if they can't, if they can somehow slow down Chase and force Brown to be the guy, they've got a shot.
I think the Chargers could take Chase Brown out of the game with relative ease, um, and force it into a kind of a, a, a Burrow shootout, like from a mentality standpoint. Obviously, if it's actuality, that's not so good for the Chargers. But like to force them to be one dimensional, maybe that's how I should phrase it.
No, hopefully so. But we saw how that worked. They almost beat Baltimore that way. So they've got to be able to clamp down and stop everybody else. It's going to be interesting to see. But right now, since he's on life support, they have to win.
Yeah. Uh, and I mean historically, I guess the Bengals with their backs against the wall is a position they usually have relative success with. Um,
Yeah, but that was before. That was before. Now I don't know if they have that. I don't know if this team can do that. I don't know if they can turn it on. I think they've waited too long, and now they're just gonna have to try to survive.
Do you think they're in a similar situation as Harbaugh, excuse me, as Shanahan in San Francisco? Is Taylor on the hot seat?
I think they're in the hot. I think he's more on the hot seat because how every year since he just starts out slow, and then all of a sudden everyone just assumes they're just going to turn it on, and here we go. Here come the Bengals. They're good to go now. You can't start out every year like this slow and just assume you're going to turn it on because now you've found yourself in a big hole. So I think right now, I don't know if they'd fire him. I think he'd have one more year, and if it starts out this way again, then yeah, he'd definitely be gone next year.
Well, that actually would be my follow up because should he get the benefit of the doubt, considering Burrow's coming off an injury, Chase is coming off an injury, and obviously having the contract situation in the off season, do you think the benefit giving him Taylor the benefit of the doubt is a mistake, or it's okay because of the injuries and whatnot?
I don't think so because it's been like this for the last couple of years. They start out slow, and unfortunately, this year, this is the year where it's finally bit them. I don't know. I guess you give them one more shot and say, okay, let's see what happens. But this is it. Like if they say, one more year, if next year they don't start out 5-1 and on fire, then you've got to really look at it and say, you know what, we need a change.
Well, Bucks, nothing's changing here. We will be back on Sunday night to wrap up all the action. So take us off air. What are your final thoughts heading into week 11?
Week 11, man, some teams' lives can be changed. There could be a bit of hope. For other teams, could just be the end. Or if you're like the Cowboys and the Jets, just never were. Sorry.